So it's time to get a new roof, and you've called a couple roofing companies and they say they're going to come out and take a look at everything and let you know what the cost is going to be. You might have a different experience depending on who you call. Some guys say they don't need to get on your roof. Others say they can see it from a satellite image, but the only way to really inspect a roof and see its true condition is to get on it. We're going to walk you through the whole process here, show you what we do whenever we come out and take a look at your roof. Now, before you even get on the roof, there's a lot of things that you can check just from the ladder. The first thing that we check is the length of the overhang. Now, it might be different where you live, but at least around where we live, code dictates that ice and water shield needs to extend 2 feet past where any warm wall intersects a roof line. Most overhangs are about 12 inches long. If it's longer than 12 inches, you're likely going to need more than the typical 1 row of ice and water shield. So that's one of the main things we check here right from the ladder. The second thing that we're looking for on the ladder is looking down into your gutters. If we see this, we know that your shingles are probably falling apart, because those are the granules on the shingles. They don't just give it the pretty color, but they also protect the asphalt portion of the shingle from all the elements outside, especially whenever the sun's baking down on them. Okay, so when we hop up on your roof to take a look at everything, we get to do a little bit of investigating while we're up here. We got to determine one of two things. One, does your roof even need replaced? And two, if it does need replaced, we want to figure out why it needs replaced, or more importantly, why did this roof fail earlier than what it should have? Let me show you something here. This is a shingle gauge. Shingle gauge on the side of the shingle reads that this is very easily a 50-year shingle. Now, that doesn't mean that this shingle is guaranteed to last 50 years, but this shingle is only about 25 years old. So in about half of the time that the homeowner who installed the shingle thought it would last, it's already fallen apart. You saw all the granules stuck in the gutter. There's a few leaks everywhere, and these shingles are very, very brittle and dry. So the asphalt's, all the pliability of the asphalt's just pretty much cooked out of the shingle. So why would that happen? Most of the time when we see that, it's inadequate ventilation. So on this whole roof, probably 60, 70 feet of peak, we've got 2 attic fans. No ridge vent on the peak, just 2 fans. This one here, and then another one on the other side of the roof. And that's just simply not enough ventilation for a roof this big with this much attic space. So that is definitely the reason that you're seeing so many granules fall off these shingles so early. It just wasn't breathing. So another reason that you need to actually get on the roof to inspect it and get down on your hands and knees is because fiberglass showing on a shingle is probably indicative of a failed shingle. There's nothing that can be done when fiberglass starts showing on a shingle. The granules have fallen off, the asphalt's become dry, it's flaking away, and then you can actually see fiberglass. But you have to be up here and look down the roof, and you'll see these little white fibers poking through on a shingle. That tells you right there, the shingle's cooked, it's done for. So when we're up here, we are also looking at accessories. A roof isn't just shingles and some underlayment and some ridge vent and caps. There are a few things that go along with some roofs. One of the big failures we see is skylights. When you have a skylight, it's 2 panes of glass filled with argon gas, and there's a tiny silver seal around those 2 pieces of glass. And when it fails and water and condensation actually starts building up inside of the skylight, it'll leak down. It'll start causing leaks down here to come through the rubber gasket between the metal and the glass. And then that essentially is a failed skylight. If your skylight is 15 years or older, they do not make replacement parts. You essentially have to buy the whole thing again. If you're gonna put a roof on that's meant to last about 30 years, there's no sense in leaving a skylight or accessory that's already been on for about 25, 30 years. It's never gonna last the whole life of the roof. So lastly, but most importantly, we're looking for the obvious signs of damage, which is leaking, right? The most egregious offender on every roof we see is the chimney, without fail. Every chimney that we look at is not done correctly. So whenever this chimney started leaking, it started leaking down through the valley of the Cricket and rotting out this section of roof here where you can see a lovely swimming pool forming. Now the overhang on this roof is so long that nobody could actually see water leaking in to the house itself. And when you're outside, it just looks like you've got wet soffit. Over a few years of that happening, it's gonna cause all that rot, and it's just gonna start caving in. So that's one of the reasons too that whenever we came out here, we knew there was definitely something wrong with the chimney. There are a lot of components when doing a roof inspection, all right? So what we've showed you today is kind of just the basics of what we do whenever we're up there, but we figured we would let you know, because when you hear that pitter patter up on the roof, no, we're not just rolling around and taking a nap in a valley. We are actually looking at a couple things while we're up there. So we really appreciate you joining us. We will see you on the next inspection.